Hey everyone, Mitch Khabib for the Commander's Core Studio. Welcome to the show. So, spoiler season is not quite here, I don't think. Yeah, I think the next spoiler season is probably going to be for the Lord of the Rings set, probably toward the end of this month. That being said, we got some exciting spoilers from over the weekend for a set that I believe is coming out in August. I think August 4th is the date. Correct me in the console if I'm wrong on that. But yeah, Commander Masters, a very exciting product. At least I'm really excited about it. And now let's jump into one of these spoilers from that set that we got super early, and I think a lot of players out there are going to be really excited about this one. How does Eldrazi Cascade sound to you? Yeah, that sounds really exciting to me. Here we go. Zhulodok? I'm going to mispronounce that. Zhulodok is what I'm going with. Void Gorger. 7/4 legendary creature Eldrazi that costs 5 and a colorless mana. Colorless spells you cast from your hand with mana value 7 or greater have Cascade. And of course, Cascade means basically reveal things off the top of your library until you hit something that costs less than it, then cast that for free. And the rest goes to the bottom of your library in random order. That's essentially what it does. And yeah, again with Cascade, that happens twice. So essentially, let's say you cast something that costs 7 mana. You could actually hit something that costs 6, and then again. And so yeah, just to be able to hit, you know, high value cards off the top of your library for free. Basically, I mean, you're tripling up every single one of your spells in a way, and the amount of value that you can get out of it. I mean, every single one of your spells, I should say, that is above 7 mana. I should specify that. So you can get a lot of value, and again, an absurd amount of value. Again, if you hit 2 things that cost, 6, you only spent 7 mana to do so, that's what, like 13, 19 mana in total worth of value that you are getting. Now, you're not always going to do that, but still, I mean, being able to just basically triple up the value of your spells is pretty absurd. And of course, there are plenty of ways to use and abuse this. Now, keep in mind, there are some restrictions to it, obviously, and some very needed restrictions for a commander like this. First up, again, colorless spells you cast from your hand. Has to be from your hand. Can't be from your graveyard. Can't be from exile, obviously, with cascading and stuff like that. Can't be from anywhere else. Has to be exactly, from your hand. Mana value 7 or greater is a decent restriction as well. 7 is a good amount of mana for something. That being said, there are plenty of great colorless spells that do cost 7 or more. And of course, this doesn't specify, non-artifact. It doesn't specify it has to be an artifact spell. It can be either. So, which is just absolutely fantastic. Yeah, I think there's a lot of different exciting things you do with this commander. You can go, Eldrazi Tribal, because there's a lot of really high value Eldrazi creatures that have a high mana value. And yeah, you can definitely go that direction. You can go, artifacts, because yeah, there's definitely ways to use and abuse artifacts. A lot of ways to use the cost of artifacts as well. You can go artifact tribal if you want, or you can do a combination of both. Regardless, on this episode, I'm going to be taking through budget buys that are going to be cards that are less than $1, cards that are within my budget to be considering, and then also cards that are pricier picks. Cards outside of my budget you might want to consider as well. Cards that are above $1 might be within your budget though. And yeah, with Eldrazi being mentioned, yeah, there's definitely some really expensive ones out there. That being said, yeah, it's really exciting to see a brand new legendary Eldrazi. Correct me in the console if I'm wrong on this, but I think I could be very wrong on this. I might be very wrong on this, but memory, please don't fail me. I think that this is the first Eldrazi that we have seen that is legendary outside of, like, Ulamog. Oh my gosh, Kozilek, I don't know why that one just slipped my mind, in Emrakul. I think this is the only other legendary Eldrazi we've ever really seen, but yeah, let me in the comments below if I'm wrong on that. And of course, seen different iterations of each of those. Regardless, now with all that said, let's jump into those budget buys. Let's talk about those cards. And yeah, the first one that I want to bring up is Ingenuity Engine. So, obviously not an Eldrazi, but hey, if you're going to go for artifacts, great, or again, a combination of both, this could be fantastic. It is a 7-mana artifact, so again, check. Hits the colorless, requirement, hits the requirement of 7 or more mana, and it's got Cascade. So there you go. It has Cascade already, and now again, with this commander, those Cascade instances can stack. So it goes Cascade, Cascade, Cascade. This cascades 3 times again for just 7 mana worth of value. Just 7 mana worth of value. Just 7 mana, you were getting an absurd amount of value. 3 other cards on top of this. And of course, on top of that, pay 1, tap, sacrifice an artifact, turn target artifact you control to its owner's hand. That can be huge. Again, being able to bounce things back to your hand, especially cards that cost 7 or more, like maybe this one, and actually you can, bring this back to your hand as well. and be a great way to get even more value out of them, especially with certain cards maybe that you might want to bounce back that maybe it can be cast for, you know, a reduced cost or even for free in certain instances. Next up, though, let's talk about Spine of Ishsaw, a fantastic card that has an ETB that you're going to utilize. Also, an LTB kind of, I guess. Spine of Ishsaw is an artifact that also costs 7, so again, check, check. Enters battlefield, destroy target permanent, a fantastic ETB trigger, and yeah, again, if you've got ways to bounce this, you ways to use and abuse it, great, but also this can kind of bounce itself in a way, because if it's put in a grave for the battlefield, turn it to its owner's hand, again, you can have ways to actually sacrifice artifacts, like we just talked about with Ingenuity Engine, that'll get it back to your hand, you can recast it, get that Cascade value again, get that ETB value again, find ways to get it back to your hand, and yeah, just have a lot of fun with this. Speaking of fun, yes, even in budget, of course, there's some great Eldrazi as well, like, you know, Desolation Twin. 10 mana, but you are getting a 10/10. Oh, and another 10/10, because when you cast it, you get a 10/10 Eldrazi. Keep in mind that is a cast trigger, so obviously not an ETB that you can use and abuse, you know, like blink effects or things like that. But again, with this kind of a deck, you're going to be utilizing more like bounce effects to bring things back to your hand, so you can recast them to get that Cascade value out of your commander. And yeah, again, at 10 mana, again, the higher the mana value of the card that you're casting, the more potential you have of hitting, you know, higher things, essentially. I guess I should say, like, hey, if you cast something that costs 7 and you start cascading, you know, exiling cards and you start, you know, revealing some 7s or some 8s or some 9s, you can't cast those. But with this, you cast that and you might be able to hit some 9s, 8s, 7s. You can hit some really, really high value cards when you're casting higher mana value spells. Speaking of which, again, doesn't have to be all Eldrazi. If you're going more in the artifact direction, hey, Metalwork Colossus is an incredible card for a commander like this. I love this one. 10/10 construct that costs 11 mana, but you're never going to pay that, most likely. And when it's going to cost X less to cast versus the total converted mana cost of non-creature artifacts you control. So again, mana rocks, any other cards like, you know, Spine of Ishsaw, that kind of stuff can just reduce the cost of this down to essentially nothing. So you can cast this for free, again, but it still has that mana value 11 while it's on the stack. So essentially, hey, cast this for free and say, yeah, Cascade again, with that 11 being the number. That is a huge amount of value on top of this being a 10/10. On top of that, you can actually get this back as well. Sacrifice 2 artifacts, return it from your grave to your hand. So again, hey, just sacrifice 2 artifacts again. One's like Spine of Ishsaw that might have actually, you know, a reason for you to sacrifice them. You get even more value out of that. Bring this back to your hand. Cast again, most likely for free. Yeah, there's a lot of great value you can get out of something like this. Moving on with some other budget buys that can help us out in different ways, though. Brainstone, a great card. Basically, Brainstorm as an artifact. Brainstone, get it? Pay 2 tabs, sacrifice it, draw 3 cards, put 2 cards to your hand on top of your library in any order. So you can set your Cascade up with something like this. Again, basically Brainstorm. Hey, draw 3, put 2 on top. So draw 3 cards. Oh, I've got some giant cards in my hand that, you know what, I don't really want. I have to cast. So cool, just put those on top. So, you know, cast maybe against something like a Metalwork Colossus that actually can just be a great free giant spell that can then get those free spells off the top of your library, other big spells off the top of your library, again, for free. A ton of Cascade value. Again, setting the top of your library can be great. We can also just, you know what's on top of Lens of Clarity. A great card for a deck like this. You may look at the top card of your library and that face down creatures you don't control. So apparently if you're playing against Morph Tribal, against like Eddie's Morph Tribal deck, great. You can look at their, you know, morphs and whatnot, which is nice. Also, you know, other things, you know, that are face down too. Regardless, looking at the top of your library is a great way to understand what you might cascade into. Again, if you've got ways to maybe mill yourself, ways to draw cards to ensure that you don't hit certain things. Yeah, great ways to essentially say, yeah, okay, let's get on the top. Oh, wait, something great is on top now. Let's leave that there. Let's cast a big spell. Let's get at the top of my library for free with that Cascade. Moving on, of course, in colorless, you've got access to a lot of great mana rocks. I mean, obviously, you know, you got access to the least amount of cards, you know, out of any, you know, color combination because, you know, colorless, it is the, you know, devoid of color, essentially. But basically, you know, Everflowing Chalice, other colorless mana rocks are great because, hey, you don't need to worry about mana fixing. So Everflowing Chalice is a great flexible mana rock. Cast it for 2 mana, taps for 1, cast for 4, taps for 2, etc., etc., etc. Basically, just a very efficient, very effective mana rock. And again, you can make the most out of those incredibly hyper-efficient mana rocks that might just give you colorless, but you don't care. So yeah, ramping can definitely be a great way to get to those higher mana value cards. Speaking of which, hey, just a land like Shrine of the Forsaken Gods can really help you out as well. It taps for colorless, or it can tap for 2, but only you can spend that mana for colorless spells, which is completely fine for you because again, you're only going to be casting those. Activate only if you control some more lands. That's fine. You'll get there. Maybe use like Wayfarer's Bauble to actually get you there too. So yeah, there you go. And then Helm of Awakening, a great card as well. You can use cost reducers like this as well to make sure that you can say, you know what? I've got all these high mana value cards, but I'm going to get some cost reduction from something like this or like a Foundry Inspector for artifacts, that kind of thing too. Yeah, spells cost, bonus to cast. This will benefit your opponents as well, so keep that in mind. That being said, cost reduction can go a long way with a deck like this because again, you're casting more and more spells. getting more and more cascades off those big spells too, getting even more value, getting way ahead of your opponents. A really cool effect for a deck like this. But now that we talked about all the budget buys, and again, as a reminder, all these cards are going to be a link in the description below. Let's move on to the pricier picks. And the first one that I want to bring up is going to be Eldrazi Temple, a $4 card currently. Tap for a colorless. Great. Again, that's just the baseline of what we care about for a land in this deck. You can use a lot of utility lands like this one. This one, though, taps for 2. Spells manually cast colorless Eldrazi spells or activated Eldrazi abilities, essentially. Yeah, again, if you are going Eldrazi Tribal, it's a great one to utilize for your deck. It's basically just a, 2 mana, land, essentially, for a lot of your, cards in the deck, essentially. And again, can get to help you get to those, bigger, higher mana value cards. Speaking of which, if you're going really heavy in Eldrazi Tribal, definitely consider Eye of Ugin. A $10 card, though, but yeah, again, if you got the value for it, if you got the, the budget for it, consider it. Legendary land. Colorless Eldrazi spells cost 2 less to cast. Great. Again, that's all your Eldrazi spells in this deck are going to cost 2 less. That's fantastic. Amount of cost reduction can be massive again on a land too. Pay 7, tap, search life for a colorless creature card, reveal, open your hand, then shuffle. Again, a great tutor for you as well to go get those colorless creatures that can be fantastic in those giant Eldrazi for you. Also, when it comes to mana, though, we can utilize Forsaken Monument, which is an incredible card in a colorless deck. Colorless creatures control get +2/+2, so a great anthem effect for a deck like this. On top of that, whenever you tap a permanent for colorless, add additional colorless. My goodness, this basically doubles up every single one of your lands that can tap for mana. And yeah, that can just be an absurd effect that can get you really ahead of your opponents. And sure, as a nice little additional value too. Whenever you cast a color spell, gain 2 life. Great. So yeah, when you cast your spells, basically gain 2 life. So even your cascading spells, so you cascade, cast another spell, they're going to be colorless. So yeah, gain basically 6 life every single time you cast a spell with mana value 7 or greater. Absurd. Next up, Ugin the Ineffable. Color spells you cast cost 2 less to cast. That is just a great effect. This has other effects as well, but yeah, again, the cost reduction that this can give you, which again, you can hit off the top of your library with any of your cascading spells, essentially, because again, you have to cast something that costs 7 or more. You hit this, hey, the next spells you're casting are going to be costing you a lot less when you have this in play. And again, the more these cost reducers have in play, the more ridiculous this deck can get. So yeah, make sure you're considering something like this. Speaking of a cost reduction, though, Eldrazi can help you out as well, though, with Conduit of Ruin. When you cast, you may search life for a colorless creature card with converted mana cost 7 or greater, reveal it, shuffle your library, put it on top of it. That is great. Just set yourself up to actually just get something absolutely massive. Or yeah, set yourself up, if you've got something else in your hand, again, like that Melwar Colossus that you can basically cast for free, that you can say, yeah, let's go get something that costs like 10, 7 to 10, around there, essentially. Get on top of my library, cast my Melwar Colossus, ensure that I cascade into that. Absolutely fantastic. On top of that, though, the first creature spell you cast each turn costs 2 less to cast. So again, if you are casting a creature spell, again, one with mana value 7 or greater, you're getting a lot more cost reduction. You're getting those cascades for a better rate. Yeah, a great card in a deck like this. Oh, gross. So here we go. Okay, All Is Dust. An incredible card as well, and one that gives you even more value. Each player sacrifices all colored permanents they control. You're not going to control any. So you have no loss with this. You lose nothing, and your opponents probably lose everything. And again, on top of that, a one-sided board wipe like this is already incredible, but you know what? Hey, Cascade. Yeah, this commander is absolutely absurd with things like this. Oh, and this one is just too fun. Not of this world. Okay. Not a lot of counter spells in colorless, but here we go. And a tribal and Eldrazi for 7 mana. Counter target spell or ability that targets a permanent you control. Oh, and by the way, now this hero costs 7 less to cast if it targets a spell or ability that targets a creature you control with power 7 or greater. So basically, if one of your big creatures, which you have many of them, gets targeted, this is free. And you're casting it from your hand, so you get Cascade off this as well for free. So free counter spell that also cascades twice. What's not to love about that, at least for you? Next up, speaking of what's not to love, Skittering Invasion. 7 mana, so again, Cascade. Have fun with that. Put 5/0/1 Eldrazi spawns that you can sacrifice for mana into the battlefield. So again, basically it is a good ramp, so like a ritual effect essentially for you. You can utilize Eldrazi spawns, just to sacrifice for mana when you need it. And yeah, Cascade off of this. A great effect. And then, of course, yeah, I mean, Kozilek. I mentioned, the Eldrazi Titans before. Now we've got a new legendary to, add to the mix. But yeah, Kozilek, a great one. We got 2 iterations of it. This is just one I decided to show. Kozilek, Great Distortion. When you cast, if you have fewer than 7 cards in your hand, draw cards equal the difference. Basically, yeah, and also 12 minutes too, and discarding cards and counter spells. Hey, yeah, oh, you're low on cards in your hand. Great, just draw back up to 7. Get back to the full hand value. And again, with ways to bounce this back to your hand, do that again and again. And also, you know, Cascade twice off this. Yeah, a fantastic effect. Next up, Zhulodok the Infinite Gyre. When you cast it, destroy target permanent. That's nice. Also, hey, indestructible 10/10 for 11 mana. Annihilator 4. Gross. Again, Annihilator means that when you attack a player, they sacrifice that many permanents based on the Annihilator. So that's 4. Oh, they're not going to last very long with something like that. So yeah, you can do some pretty gross things with Eldrazi. And of course, you're going to Eldrazi Tribal. Yeah, the Eldrazi Titans are great to consider, especially Emrakul the Promise End. There you go. 13 for 13 mana. That being said, you can reduce that cost. It's going to cost once to cast for each card type among cards in your graveyard. It's going to cost a lot less than that. And again, you're still getting that 13 mana value for that Cascade, even if you're only spending, you know, 7, 8 mana on this or whatnot. So yeah. On top of that, just a little thing right here too. When you cast it, you gain control of target opponent during that player's next turn. After that player's next turn, they get an extra turn. Flying, trample for extra instance. You can wreck someone by taking their turn, just swinging their army at another player that maybe they were allied with or whatnot, you know, making all the wrong decisions for them, wiping their own board, you know, those kinds of things too. So you can do some pretty crazy things with that. And yeah, again, a lot of value those Cascades. And on top of that, you have 13 flampling, you know, creature that's really hard to deal with as well. Next up, though, our final card, Mycosynth Golem. Again, if you are going heavy into artifacts and artifact creatures, this is an incredible one. Mycosynth Golem, 4/5. It is $34 now. Oh my gosh, that card price has gone up quite a bit over the years. 4/5 Golem for 11 mana, but you're never going to pay that. Affinity for artifacts, so it's going to cost 1 less to cast for each one of your artifacts. And my goodness, again, it's really easy to flood the board with artifacts. This can cost just basically 0 mana, again, like a Middleware Colossus, essentially. Cast it for free, Cascade a lot with it, and then also on top of that, artifact creature spells you cast, you play, have affinity for artifacts as well. So there you go. Basically, all your artifact creatures are probably going to be free, and again, that's just even more Cascade value off the top of your library, those ones that cost 7 or more. So yeah, overall, a very exciting brand new commander. Again, correct me below in the comments if I'm probably just missing something. Maybe I'm not missing something, though. I believe this is the first legendary Eldrazi we've gotten since the Titans, really. So yeah, it's a really exciting brand new card. You can go Eldrazi Tribal, you can go artifacts, you can go a combination of both. You can just go big, juicy spells as well. There's a lot of really cool things you can do with this one. I think a lot of players out there are going to be very excited about it. Comment below with your thoughts on it. Make sure you check out that card list link in the description below. Consider picking up some of those cards. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.